Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, brother. How are you?
Well, good, good. I
Well,
don't know
good.
about the world, but I'm doing all right.
The world is the world.
Mm.
Complexity upon complexity.
Injustice upon injustice.
Yeah, that's been going on since like the beginning.
Yeah, that's been going a long time, brother.
Long time. No end in sight.
None.
So yeah, just it's a sad thing, but you almost have to plan for it. So they are Iran and Israel still shooting missiles at each other? I hadn't checked since I went to bed last night.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
No, you got it wrong. Israel's protecting itself.
No, I think I had it right. I think they're shooting.
That
I
determines
think
who
they're
I
shooting
listen to,
missiles at each other. I understand.
If I turn to one news thing and the first thing they're talking about Israel protecting itself, I turn. Well,
There you go.
or
You know,
Iran attacks Israel.
all I can remember is my little sister running to the porch and yelling in the house, "Mama, they fighting." She didn't say one of them was trying to protect themselves from the other. She said, "Mama, they fighting."
Hey, Edward, are you talking?
Can you hear me?
I can now. I couldn't before.
Oh, okay. No, I was sitting laughing about my little sister running up the front steps of the house and yelling into the house through the door, "Mama, they fighting." She didn't say nobody was defending themselves. She told the truth. They fighting.
Fighting, that's it. What can you say, man? But the craziness in the country, heck, I like the old races. At least they had decorum, you know.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. They have totally lost it. And there is no leadership.
None. Well, I mean, the Congress has gave up its role.
Mm-hmm.
The judicial branch is all but giving up its role. They tried to do something, but
there's nobody to back the judiciary up. When they issue a ruling, there's no way to enforce the ruling.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, it's lawless.
Now, see, the parade wasn't a big, which I already knew wasn't going to be a big deal, but
nah,
that man's a damn clown. Somebody asked me why I spell his name, little T, a big R,
right?
UMP. And I didn't want to put it in ink, but because he's an ass.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I started doing that in his first administration.
Uh-huh.
I always spelled it like that. Now I do not even write his name. I just say he who shall not be mentioned. Or something more derogatory.
Mm.
But since I'm a nice mugmeen, I just say he who shall not be mentioned most of the time.
Okay.
But one thing Israel is doing is they're showing the Arab world that they don't respect them at all.
None.
Do you know that Israel launched, I think that's what you can say about planes. They launched every military aircraft that they had in Israel on that combat mission to Iran. Every airplane. They left none on the ground.
And wasn't worried about something coming.
Wasn't worried at all. Nothing coming from Egypt, east or west, north or south. Nothing.
I listened to a statement that it was on YouTube that Saudi Arabia read to the international courts, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was this morning. At about a half an hour in, I cut the stuff off. Oh, it sounds good, but it was about a year and 6 months too late. You know?
Mm-hmm.
They started reading out how many Palestinians have been killed and injured and blah, 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 blah. Where was that a year ago?
A year ago, he was telling the truth that he didn't care about the Palestinian people.
Yep. At all.
And last month, I think he was hugging Donald Trump and kissing on both cheeks.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope. Thinking about what grandma used to say. God don't like ugly. You know?
True.
They gonna get theirs.
They will. But, you know, there's a slap, very loud slap in every Arab's face this morning.
Mm-hmm.
All the Muslims for Trump and Arab Americans for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Will they repeat the same mistake again in the future?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they'll repeat the same mistake again in the future.
Well, they have, especially the ones over here, they have no understanding of history. You know? None.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, what's the old saying? If they don't learn from history, they're gonna be doomed to repeat it. All right. None. So I mean, if the latest version of the Muslim band didn't wake him up, if the stopping immigrants from certain countries didn't wake him up, then this war will. You know.
I'm beginning to think they only care about the facade of Islam and how much money they can make.
Well, the ones over here, that's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we should understand that as a people, man. They don't have no problem selling us pork and liquor.
Right.
They ain't got no problem selling us gambling at all.
Not at all.
And I ain't got a whole lot of interest in what they talking about Islam is. You know, The ones that
with
came
you.
over here were not religious people, bro. And the few that claimed they're religious people, they brought their system over here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, the Pakistanis are just as bad as the Indians with their
Oh, I
caste,
know.
with their
Heck
caste
yeah.
system.
Yes, they are.
And we were, you know what caste we were in? The Negroes were in with them.
Yeah.
But I've been to India. I've seen that caste system and how it operates on their society. They got a whole lot of people they treat like Negroes.
I know. And they living worse than us, than
That's what
our
I'm talking about.
worst. Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, you're talking about poverty, man.
Yeah.
You're talking about poverty. They going to preach to us? Oh no. Mm. So we'll see, brother. Now, so and I am totally. I guess I'm going through my stage. I'm totally disappointed in African Americans. You know, totally. After having worked with them and you know, in this political organization I'm part of,
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got nothing for them. So, because they so busy trying to see what they can get for them than to help us out.
You're talking about on an individual basis? Or what?
Yeah, individual. Well, I mean, you know, the so-called leaders that we have.
So they're scrambling to cover themselves so that they have something coming in, regardless of anybody else.
Well, they think that our best options are keeping them elected. You see what I'm saying?
Because they've done so much.
Exactly. Indeed, diddly. Cocaine be playing them like a fiddle. They don't even realize it. You know. Now we got the numbers in this county in terms of the electoral process, but we don't have the money. We don't have the power. You know what I mean? So,
But you know, it's funny that you mentioned that because in the early days, I guess it was probably the early 1980s, maybe mid 1980s. I think it had to be early 1980s. Atlanta had the same problem. I know Atlanta's a much larger place, but Atlanta had, plurality of black population,
mhm.
but there was some African American money there, but whites really and truly controlled the economics of Atlanta and Fulton County.
Mm-hmm.
Once they actually started electing African American officials with some sense and with some fire, the money started to flow to the African American community. They started making sure that African American contractors, architects, engineers, so on and so forth, got contracts, and they were blatant about it. You know, Maynard Jackson, Andrew Young, forget there was another brother that was in there, and there was some women too that were in positions of power. They just started doling out contracts. You know, Herman Russell got all those contracts for the building and stuff that went on for the Olympics in Atlanta, and apartment complexes, and you know, government housing contracts and all kinds of stuff. They were very blatant about it. And I guess they did it in a way that legally they couldn't be challenged, but they just made sure black people got paid. So sometimes you have to if you use your power effectively, you can shift that money dynamic.
Nah, here's the problem. See, you lost me when you try to compare Atlanta to everything else.
I know,
You lost me.
but
First of all, ain't nothing like it. When we moved to Atlanta in 1965, and I went to private. I went to Catholic school, high school.
Okay.
And I played on the junior varsity basketball team. But anyway, we were in Atlanta, and you know, going in the south side of Atlanta, where there was a lot of black wealth. Black folks had big homes in Atlanta.
College Park.
No, I'm talking about wasn't College Park. That was maybe after I left. South side was like trying to think some of the names of the sections of it. But College Park wasn't that totally black back then. It is now. It is now. So I lived on the east side. I lived right off Auburn Avenue.
Okay.
In the projects.
Okay.
So by me going to the Catholic school, there wasn't that many African Americans there anyway at that time. But a lot of the brothers and sisters that there lived on the west side. You know, money people. So anyway, we were going to we had a game in this outlying areas of Atlanta, and we missed the bus. So we had to ride out there with one of the fellas. So we didn't know where we were going. We turned down the street. And I thought it was a small street, but it was a driveway.
Whoa.
We turned the corner. Man, I ain't never seen a house that big. You know, you'd be amazed when you're driving on the west side. You see how kind of houses African Americans live in. But when I saw that house, I said, "Man, we're in the wrong neighborhood," because that was a big old house. So that's the difference, man. So by us having a little money and things like that, in Atlanta, the ones that had, they were able to do those kind of. Herman Russell was rich before he got that airport contract. I remember Herman Russell when I was down there. He was very wealthy, right?
Okay.
So we had that, but you couldn't duplicate that in other areas of the country because they didn't have what Atlanta had. So that's the difference. But you know, of course, there were still divisions. You know, in our part of town, we didn't give a flip about brothers because he lived in that part of town, that kind of thing.
Right.
Oh man, you grew up in Fourth Ward? That's what we grew up in, Fourth Ward. Oh man, you were like dirt. And I had my grandmother's cousin was the dean of admissions at Morehouse. So when we moved to Atlanta, and I was in ninth grade, and we went to see him, his main issue was, I hope they don't think this is a regular deal, that kind of thing. Hope they don't come down here mooching on us. I had a, single mother. She worked for the Internal Revenue Service at the time, but he worrying about us coming around there.
Mm.
So in my senior year, I had gotten a scholarship. I had a scholarship to Georgia Tech in Morehouse. It was a dual degree scholarship, and I would go, I think, 3 years at Morehouse and 2 years at Tech, and come out
Okay.
with 2 degrees, something like that.
Okay. Okay.
Because my SAT score said I had a high aptitude for engineering. So how wrong that was. I hated it. But I'm on Morehouse campus, and I run across my grandmother's cousin, Dr. Deli Boger, is his name. And he sees me, say, "Hey, what you doing over here?" That's his first question, right? I said, "Well, I got a scholarship." And he went out, the heck, I get a scholarship without his help. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I walked away from that. I'm gonna get away from this clown. So in my freshman year, the alphas were trying to rush me, right?
Okay.
They wanted me to be an alpha. So they were having a party at his house. So one of the guys invited me out. They went out to his house, and so when I go to the front door, and his wife would let me in, let all of us in. There was other people there. He sees me. You know what this clown asked me? Yes, Adam. Did you tell them the connection?
Oh man.
In other words, you're saying you tell them how by some freak of nature you happen to be some kin to us.
He figured you could. There's no way you could be there on your own, right?
Without his help.
Yeah.
And that was his problem. Needless to say, they didn't get me. I turned down the chance to be an alpha. Really, be truthful, the problem was it was in '69, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the ranks of the fraternities and sororities were all time low. Because we run around there, we ain't Greek, we black. So they had problems getting the numbers up, right? Because black nationalism had taken over.
Right.
So it was something else, man. But put it on a modern stage around, let's say around Cumberland County, right? Most of the positions here are held by African Americans. And after the Rodney King protest, the Caucasians got crazy. One guy put in his paper, he said, in the time where most of the positions in Fayetteville and Cumberland County are held by people of color, because I guess he's trying to get correct and he didn't want to say what he wanted to say. But he enumerated them. He said the mayor, city attorneys, city manager, police chief, fire chief, 709, 709 city council members. So that he put it in paper, and I said, that's their problem. There's too many Negroes in charge. And he's trying to change, they've been trying to change that ever since that time. So, but that's the problem. We were in charge, but we didn't get as much from that as we should have for various reasons. but you don't have a lot of African American businesses that have the ability to take over these contracts. That's in North Carolina too, right? But
So there, the people talk about this. I mean, I proposed this years ago. I even tried to put myself into the mix, and I still do. Of if I'm not big enough to do that contract by myself, why don't we joint venture
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and do that, put that
I,
contract,
I
you know?
say that too. I say that, yeah, that would be the logical thing.
You know,
But
we go 50-50, 33,
that,
33, 33, whatever. Nobody,
you
everybody
would
makes
think,
money, nobody gets cheated.
you would think, but the reality is that didn't happen either, for various reasons. See, when you're not organized, when you've been bred on the fact of not trusting your own and not working together, you understand? Now here's what Caucasians would do. I remember this white guy had a construction. He just started a construction company, small thing, and I saw how this one large construction company embraced him, right? Now this guy's company that got embraced like that is a big company today, right?
Hmm.
I remember when we had a school bond, and they had passed $186 million school bond for construction and whatever, right? And I was working with the uh, Black Business Organization. So this one guy had his job was to find some minority contractors to get some of these contracts. So they had a I forgot what they call it. They wrote a contract out. They had a meeting at the library where you can entertain questions and show specs and on whatever to get bids.
Hmm. Right.
Man, we have three African American businesses that came down there, right? So that's been a problem. So when we passed the $186 million school bond, we were at the meeting and said we need to go meet with the superintendent and ask why we can't get some of this contract. So we're at the meeting. So someone said, we can set the meeting up. Who's going to ask the question? Everybody looked at me. I said, yeah, I asked him a question. I don't mind. So we get to the meeting, and I raised my hand. I asked the superintendent's name was Rowetter. I remember. I asked him about getting the contracts. You know, this man told me, he said, Adam, I'm glad you asked the question. First thing hit my mind. Oh, hell, these Negroes done set me up. The man was waiting on the question. So he said, you know, we're committed to getting that 10% set aside. Now, only 10% now. And we've contracted with the Business and Professional League. That's the organization I was part of, right? We've
Okay.
contracted with the Business and Professional League to oversee that, right? That's why they wanted me to ask the question. So when they got that oversight role, it wouldn't be so obvious. I said, well, I started to say, who? Organization can't oversee nothing. They can't oversee their own stuff, right? So, needless to say, it ended up not happening. We didn't get hardly anything near what they were talking about. Then the state had a 10% set aside goal, mandated goal. We wasn't getting that. So the state, let's say they passed another law. They passed another law that said it went from mandated goal to aspirational goal.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I hate those
What the
words.
hell is an aspirational goal?
It means you dream about it at night. When you wake up in the morning, you come back to reality. I ain't doing that.
So, so I got the bill, and I saw everybody voted. I went down this around the state. I went down to people that voted aye to that garbage, and I saw a whole bunch of African American names on there.
Mm.
And I started calling them up. I said, man, what? Why did you vote for that bill? Oh, I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't realize that's what it said. You in Raleigh voting with stuff you ain't read. I called them up. Sold us out, brother. See what I'm saying? See how easy it is to sell stuff out?
They don't care.
No, they Caucasian is smart, man. All right, Ralph. Here's what we're gonna do. I need to support some of the stuff you put out there. So if you vote for this, I'll support one of your bills. So Ralph got a bill in his bill in his county because he got to act like he's doing something, right? They'll put sidewalks on the road in his neighborhood. And it makes like Ralph is really doing something in Raleigh. And they put sidewalks in his neighborhood a year before they put the sidewalks in everybody's neighborhood. But Ralph did it first. Caucasian
Yeah,
smart.
but that just makes us dumb because that is so obvious.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not 100. I'm not against, as they say, reaching across the aisle.
Right.
If the projects that I'm reaching across the aisle to support are projects that I can sleep well at night, knowing that okay, you know, I did something somewhat good for some people that I'll probably never meet and who probably don't even like me. Okay, it's okay, but I got to get something back of equal value.
Yeah, it gotta be equal value, but and that's the problem.
Yeah,
They don't care about equal value. They'll get a Caucasian 100%, so we can get 2%.
exactly. That's ridiculous. You know that's I hate to say this, but this is the truth. That's why I don't go to church with my relatives. Because years ago, you know, after I came to Al Islam or was led to Al Islam, allowed to be a part of Al Islam, I used to have to sit down and have discussions with them. And I said, just come with me one Friday. Just just come to the masjid and we'll make a habit of visiting each other's, you know, religious institutions. We can all learn. Never happened. Never happened. Not one time that any of my relatives ever set foot in a masjid to this day. So
I
you know I
understand
quit.
that.
So you know I quit because if it's not equal value, if we're not going to have at least that minimum level of respect for each other, uh, nah, you know, miss me. You cannot count on my vote. You cannot count on my support for your people if you're not willing to offer me the same kind of support from my people. Yeah, I don't get that.
Well, brother, our Christian brothers and sisters are big hypocrites, right?
Right.
And I sense that in being president of the Black Caucus. They really hate I got here, you know, and I know if they could, and which is all right with me. I mean, I'm at the point I'm about tired of it anyway. But they just be doing some dumb stuff, right? Dumb stuff. Now we got this young this young guy. I don't know where Mario's from. Mario's Filipino American. I don't know what he is. But Mario shot the guy. And he's on the city council. So when I first met Mario, I was this nonprofit that he was working at asked me to do some accounting work for him. That's when I first met him, right? And he was in what was he doing? He was working for them, and it came around with the George Floyd protests and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked with a lot of young people. So I didn't know he had political aspirations, whatever. So he ran for the city council. And he ran against his African American. I definitely wasn't impressed with the African American. But I didn't think Murray would win. But he won. Right? So I was on the Black Caucus, and Mario was registered as a Democrat. But I found out the year before that he was a Republican, right? So naturally, everybody on the caucus, well, he's just a Republican in my mouth. But I like Mario. I can deal with him. I can influence him. He called me for advice. You know what I mean? So he won. And I couldn't endorse him, or I wasn't going to endorse him because I couldn't because he wasn't a Democrat, right?
Right.
But we stayed close. I talked to him. Now Mario messed around, and his fiance at the time came from a prominent Caucasian family. And they've since got married. So I knew that they wasn't supporting him for us. They were supporting him for them, you know. But I kind of kept my relationship close enough that I can influence him, or he called me for advice, whatever, right? And it's still so now. Mario is running for mayor, and the current mayor is African American. But here we are. We were in. It was January, February, and the mayor hadn't said he's running for re-election. But again, I can't support Mario because I know the organization ain't gonna go for it, right?
Mhm.
But he had called me to let me know he's running for mayor. And I told him then, I said, I can't come out and support you. I'm not going to try to get the organization to endorse you. But he understands that. So I talked to him yesterday, and I said, as long as the lines of communication are open, I said, I'd like to get with you one day and talk about some of the things, some things that you've done that I have issues with. Maybe, I can influence those decisions. But what can I do? Bro, I ain't got no money. His in-laws got money. What kind of influence I got other than making a moral appeal? You know what I mean?
Right.
But those are the types of things that I'm dealing with down here, man. And the people in the caucus don't realize uh, that respect that we have in the political circles. And a lot of that respect is because of what I've been doing over the years. You understand? They don't
Right.
understand it. They don't understand that. So, and then on the statewide, we have a state caucus, and we're really affiliate of the state caucus. And it's funny, man. I mean, we had a meeting yesterday, and they weird on the state level too. What can I say? Weird. So it gets interesting. So what can you do? But and one day I'll have a discussion with you. Phone call I got from Muslim leadership.
In your
Because
county or in North Carolina?
how about national?
Really?
Yeah.
Conveners?
More or less.
That okay. Okay.
More or less. But the thing is that I said in one word. The Caucasian wasn't worried about the Nation of Islam to the point that they knew structurally wise they could tear it down any time they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And that was highlighted when Honorable Muhammad passed, right? Because structurally wise, it did not meet muster. You understand? When you're dealing in the corporate law and business
Right.
terms, whatever.
Understood. Yep.
And it's still the same thing now.
But we choose to be that way now. I mean, we actually have the expertise to be able to put something together, but we choose to be
haven't.
separate.
But we haven't.
I know, but
No.
because
It's not, and it's not. I should. Maybe one day soon I can talk about it, but it's not.
okay.
It's not the structure of the national group. It's entities that are presumed to be part of the national group that are not. That in actuality are business entities, legal entities that are not structured, that are not following the structure that they are in. You follow?
Right, but those are standalone organizations, though.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Standalone organizations, but they're not operating like. If you're going to choose that structure, you got to be true to that structure. You
I
understand?
agree. Right.
And that's the part that's going on. And I'm hoping that it doesn't get to the point where it becomes known to be a problem.
Okay, Adam. Here's my point on that. Is in every whatever ethnic group, cultural group, whatever you want to call them all, they all have organizations that are like that. It doesn't matter about race, because I could show you right here in North Texas some quote unquote white European American organizations that say they're something, but they actually operate. They're out of control in the way they operate. Some of them are businesses
I agree.
that are profitable, but man, if you just went in and looked at their internal structure of how they actually function, the government could come in and sue them at any time, and they have no defense.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I mean, so the fact that we're like that doesn't surprise me at all, and it's not a problem for me. My thing has always been, if those groups want to continue along their own path that way, they're comfortable with it, you know, bless them. And I actually hope they don't get in any trouble if they're able to continue the way that they are and keep themselves going. What I'm saying is there should be, what does the Quran say, a group calling to all that's right and good and all that stuff that forms. And no matter what the size of that group, when it forms, that it sets itself up in a structure, in a manner that is sustainable and that will be followed and is without error, and tries to maintain itself with that error. And I don't care what the size of it is when it starts, but that it does start.
I understand. Well, I guess without being given more information, I guess I shouldn't have started down this road.
No, you're fine, because I think this stuff all the time. You haven't caused me to think anything that I hadn't already thought.
But I see a conflict brewing that shouldn't have to be a conflict, is what I'm saying.
Okay, why would
And
there be a conflict?
Excuse me?
Why would there be a conflict?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I have to give you more information.
Okay.
That's why. And I understand my being kind of encrypted is causing this. Maybe I can see that. But let me reserve this for another time.
Okay.
And I hope it will remain a non-issue. But by the mere fact that I got the call for advice tells me that
it's already an issue.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nobody calls you and asks you, do you think I should press the button on the bomb?
Right.
Unless it's to the point that it's seriously being considered to press the button and send the bomb.
Yeah. And the fix is real easy. I mean, it's a real easy fix. And I can lead them through the fix. But in order for it to be fixed, both parties got to be willing to sit down. So,
and you cannot be the one that calls the meeting. Never put yourself in that position.
I'm not
supposed to know about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did give that advice to the one that called.
Okay.
It's really a simple fix. It don't have to be a problem. But if it continue on, it's gonna be a problem. Right?
It's gonna be a worse problem because it's already a problem.
Exactly. So, and that's the problem. That's the problem in all everything we're doing. When you deal with mass cares and the council remands, right?
That's the start of it right there. I don't know if that's the iceberg beneath the water, but that's the part of the iceberg that you see above the water.
And I have understandings that it don't have to be a problem if the two get together and say, okay, this has implications bigger than our individual efforts. If we don't solve it, if we don't come together, come to a meeting of the minds, you can forget talking about getting community together because everyone has their own little following. And
Yep.
the more you ignore it, the more you're going to have them come apart. And we
Yep.
can't afford that.
Right. So is that why the whole West Coast is still not on the conveners page?
The West Coast?
West Coast of the United States of
I
America.
don't know what that's about. I don't know what's that is about. Because it ain't like the West Coast and mascaras are walking step and step.
No, 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 no. I mean, the West Coast seems to just have disappeared from the whole scope.
Again, I don't know what that's all about. But if you look at the West Coast, you're talking about where maybe it's uh, Imam
Shuaib,
Shoaib, which is one part. What
Oakland,
about Los
that's
Angeles?
northern. Then you got LA, which has a
What I'm
huge
saying,
building,
those are the two major biggest plugs there.
and then San Diego, which was the first masjid on the West Coast.
I have no idea what that is all about, brother. I wasn't even talking about that.
I know you weren't. But this is what I'm saying, though. That's why I say very cryptically that there's a problem. It's the iceberg that we see above the water, but the iceberg beneath the water is probably 10 times as big already.
Well, when you're talking about the council remands, you're talking about mascaras. That is
That's evident above the water. Everybody
that's
sees
above the
that.
water.
Yes, everybody knows.
I don't know what the other part is. Then you talking
Well,
about New York.
yeah. So we discussed this before when the initial planning of Imam W.D. Muhammad's 50th anniversary was taking place, and the first thing Mosquera said was, "No, we're not going to be a part of it." And his sister said on the meeting, "Let me talk to him. I think I can persuade him to be a
Yeah, I
part of
understand.
it." Right? Imam Pasha, they asked him, "Be a you want to be a part of, you want to have a significant role in the celebration." He gave him the Whitney Houston response. Hell with the no.
Well, here's my part. Why would you? What do you think has taken place that you felt comfortable enough to go ask them in the first place?
Okay, so there's another side of that coin. He's
What?
prominent. Both of them are prominent in our community.
But
Why
again,
wouldn't you ask them?
because you ain't talked to them in the last 10 years. That's a good reason why.
Okay, but they haven't talked to you either.
Who say what?
They haven't talked to you either.
They didn't talk to me. What are you talking about?
I'm saying Pasha hadn't talked to the conveners. Conveners hadn't
I
talked to
understand,
Pasha.
but my
I mean,
point is, why would you use a public thing like that to come to the table? To me, there was some disingenuousness in the first aspect.
maybe, maybe, maybe,
No doubt in my mind, there was some disingenuousness in the first
probably,
aspect.
probably so.
No doubt in my mind.
Let me ask you this: if they had sent me or you as an emissary, would it be just as disingenuous, or would there be more more reality to it? I think it
No,
would
I'm
be just
saying
as disingenuous to send either one of us
exactly,
with a peace offering.
exactly.
So it's all going to be disingenuous, but you have to do it.
But ever, there was no effort to solve that issue absent this big celebration.
I 100% agree with that too.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
If there was no effort before, and to come out and make some public ask for the sake of it, to me, is disingenuous.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And I'm gonna say this every time when Imam Pasha decided to go to Inkster and start to rebuild that community there in Inkster, buy that land, do all those things, he made a plea to the entire Ummah for assistance. Now I know he had a lot of his own financing and stuff there, but he wanted the entire Ummah to be a part of that. To me, that's the same thing.
No doubt.
You not
I'm not
having
saying I'm
conversation,
not saying it's
right?
not now. This
Okay.
see, I'm not being like some of my influenced MAGA Negro people I know that when you mention something about Trump, they immediately go to a Biden or
Mm-hmm.
Obama.
Right.
I
I
said,
agree.
brother, I ain't mentioning Obama. Why we put this ain't got nothing to do with Obama. This mean my position with Trump. You understand? So all I'm
Right.
saying is there should have been a serious effort. Where's Sister Martha go? I'm Trace off.
I don't know. It's just too strong for her, bro. Oh, here she
Oh, okay.
comes. Coming back.
I'm
Here
sorry,
she
Sister Martha. Assalamu alaikum. We ain't trying to ignore you.
comes.
But to me, there should have been an effort to get the
I've been
get the
having Ditman Walaikum to you too.
yes, ma'am. So we said
hang
something
in, hang,
sharp.
hang
I
in
ain't
there
know.
with us. Hang in there with us.
So
Mhm.
there should have been an effort to correct that long before this,
Agreed.
Mhm.
and there should have been enough good-minded people on all sides to band together and insist we correct this.
Mhm.
But they let it fester and fester and fester and fester through all this stuff. And to think, that's why I said to think that to be a public, well, we're going to get together on this because I don't know whether it was some mentality to embarrass them or whatever, but to insist upon that on this
Hmm.
wasn't a good optics for optics.
Let me ask you a question because I wasn't really in, I guess, in the knowledge of the community. I wasn't one of those people that was a fly on the wall in the community when a certain thing happened. And that was when the Imam and Farrakhan appeared at a joint event. How did that ever come about? Who negotiated that deal? Who reached out first there? Because that was a serious split.
When they were on the
And that was
same,
that was that was that was bigger than this.
well, what you didn't have two leaders that were at odds with each other like that. You didn't have that. So I don't, I think in terms of the imam wasn't trying to turn his back on Farrakhan like that, right? So that's one thing. You had two leaders that were comfortable in their own skin, that weren't threatened by whatever. So that wasn't a big, to me, that wasn't a big move like that.
Okay. So let's look at just a couple of things. So to me, and please correct me. To me, Mosquears is just a commercial venture. It has nothing to do with faith or faith traditions or you know promoting. I mean, it does promote Al Islam, but I mean just the I don't know the Juma prayer, Talim, epic. I mean, to me, that's a lightweight operation. It's a commercial operation. Why isn't it just very simple to recognize that, promote that part of it without, obviously without diminishing anyone's religious fervor or their commitment to faith, any of that stuff, but just recognize it for what it is and recognize the conveners at every level as something that's more tied to religious study and doctrine and all that kind of stuff. They're not competing entities to me. They don't mean the same thing.
Well, it's not competing. It's the Mosque Cares is the ministry of Imam W.D. Muhammad.
But it's not, because he's not here. And his son is a weak replica of it.
Now,
Very weak replica.
It is not about his son.
Okay.
It is about the works of the Imam, things that he's produced. Right.
Understood. That's Library of Congress.
All right. And that's what it's about. Now,
that's Library of Congress, Adam. That's a collection of works.
Well, it's continuing.
That should be curated and promoted, and you can buy a copy of this and buy a copy of that and do this. That's what that is. That has nothing to do with really and truly the day-to-day life of the Muslim.
Well, I don't think they're putting stuff out there as something to do with day-to-day.
Then where's the competition? This is what boggles my mind. Where's the competition?
It's not about the competition so much so. Now, I do admit you might have members of that board that might be exasperating the whole thing. It reminds me of when Ali tried to retire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had those around him that were supported by Ali's. That was their meal ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So they be in his head saying, "You the champ, brother. One more time. You the champ. You the champ." And Ali felt responsible because he was like a father who had children that he had to support.
Right.
And he kept on taking one more fight. Long before the time we probably should have stopped. All right. And I feel there were people and this is just me, in Wallace ear, that were telling him the same, something similar, because that gave them their important purpose. And I don't know what happened. I wasn't there when Bashir Ali and Wallace had that whatever conversation they said they had, and what was said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that to result in Bashir Ali being put out of the National Convention. I was at that National Convention when it happened. But he was put out. He was asked to leave, escorted away. Now, I don't know what happened there because I'm not privy to that. Heard a couple of things, but I'm not going to spread it because I don't know if they were accurate or not. That's when the shot was fired. All right. So it's not about Mosqueras. And the Imam has a lot of lectures, a lot of books, a lot of CDs, whatever that they had. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Imam put Wallace over Mosqueras. That was his role.
Right. Right.
So I think the conversation said, why are they so important or whatever, that's definitely not one that's going to lead to anything good. But the reality is they're operating. And I don't think that type of tact is necessary. And nothing good is going to come of it. Especially we're trying to get them to resolve that issue. Nothing's
Oh, you mean you're saying between the two of them, whatever that is?
well, right now it's two organizations right now.
Well, but okay. Again, to me, the conveners of imams are simply leadership that are chosen and in place that are over masjids
They're not over
that
masjid.
are, well, okay, but you know what I mean when I say over. The masjids in the association look to them for leadership in certain small areas, not in khutbahs on Friday or
So
building
what?
plans for the community, but just guidance and leadership, just like declaring the Eid, just something, figureheads,
I'm
you
glad
might say.
I'm glad you used that word, figureheads.
Okay, figureheads, but it's okay to have a figurehead,
That's all
right?
right.
It's okay.
But
It's yeah.
what kind of power do figureheads have?
They have no power. Maybe
Okay,
that's
as long
part
as
of
we
the
understand
problem.
that.
Maybe that's part of the problem, but they have
As
no
long as we
power.
understand that.
Right.
We're just trying to get out of people's heads into reality.
Right.
And that's the problem. Everybody's got something in their heads.
Mosque Cares has about the same amount of power as conveners of imams.
I agree. No
Right?
power whatsoever.
No power whatsoever. So you have two powder puffs mad at
Exactly.
each other. It's a
Yeah,
girl. It's a baby girl fight. It's not even a big girl fight. It's a
I
baby
agree.
girl fight
I agree.
over a little plush toy in the crib.
Well, you know how it is.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
Walaikum
salam.
assalam.
In fact, I may inject one thing from those who approached me, just as an individual, and their talk is always, we all need to realign ourselves and come under the mosque cares.
Who said that?
Well, there was a brother I was speaking with. He's into studio, what you call it, musical promotions, stuff like that. Can't think of his name right now, but he has a book out, and he tried to get it into the Muslim Journal, but they wouldn't let him submit it for some reason. But and
If
then
he wouldn't pay the promotional fee,
we
wouldn't pay for the
we
oh
ad.
wasn't under mascaras when the man was alive.
well, but this is what some of the ones that's like when we like I meet with them on certain Wednesdays when they're discussing the convention. And I asked them about a time to be grateful last year. I was steadily on with them, convening and it's in support of what Mosque Cares overall does. Like the first Sunday presentations, and they have certain speakers, uh, the regular ones, I should say. And I think they do the all the time the prayer line. What is that? The conference prayer line, a conference line
Yeah.
for what do they call it? I think it's the prayer line. But anyway, uh, the overall when I ask about a time to be grateful, and they said, well, only if the secretary says connect with me, but they say only if they invite Wallace to speak. And Muslim Journal said it's okay. We'll have a conversation with him. It's okay, but we're not about having a person come and just do a keynote, that kind of thing, or just but be part of the team in the
Yeah.
direction that a time to be grateful is about fundraising for Muslim Journal. So it's not to pump anybody else up, and of course everyone was in accordance with that who were working with the time to be grateful. But when it got closer to why, we heard nothing back. So I don't know if that's the case that it is that that they feel that everyone should be uh, looking to Chicago once again to be the
Misguided.
sphere.
Tell them they
Uh,
misguided. Tell them I said it.
that
Misguided.
that is a joke. Tell them I said it's a joke.
well, that's what.
It's a bad
I
joke. To
understand.
even think it is a bad
Mhm.
joke.
His
They're like a
statement is totally
Library of
misguided.
Congress. He is he is such a weak leader. He is such a small-minded promoter of al-Islam. His knowledge base is. I can't stay on his calls more than 15 minutes.
Well, but I think the ones behind, like you said, you gave the analogy, Adam, of Muhammad Ali. Not that Muhammad Ali was weak, but the analogy is those who are really the promoters, the pushers, the maintainers of, and keeping the light on the fact that it's Mosque cares. And but when a convention is held, like they've been having the virtual convention, like I paid already to attend, uh, but the conversation is always around, you know, they have things. I mean, I look at their website and they have things that they're dealing with doing, but I don't know how connected it is with to be a national organization.
Well, in North Carolina,
Hmm.
and we've been doing this probably for the last, well, we did it before the man passed. We would we send donations to mosques to maintain the library, to maintain the things that Wallace has that is imams. All right, Imam Muhammad, maintain that legacy. That's it. We're not looking to we're not looking to do them for leadership the way we did when the man was alive. And the man stopped that. He said, "You're autonomous." Now, but at no time when the man did what he did, did I think in my mind that he's no longer the leader. At no time did I come up with that. He's my leader. He was my leader. And he said, "What I give you will last you 1,000 years." We ain't even went past 100 yet, right? So now, do I think that
We're just at 50.
exactly? Do I think that Wallace is the embodiment of that? Embodiment of that? No, no. You understand? So, but what you're dealing with now is egos, and you got people that are following egos. So they have a preference of Wallace's ego. Then you got some that got a preference of Bashir Ali's ego. And I'm not looking at either one of them. All right, I'm still looking at what the man left. When I look for reference, I don't go to Councilman Man's website. I don't look at what
Do
they
they,
say.
do any of them have a body of work to even begin?
None,
That's what I'm saying. There's zero out there.
none. I look at the body of work that Imam has, and I got source.
Right.
I can go get something from Oscars. I can go to New Africa Radio. I
Hmm.
got a subscription to uh, Imam W. Muhammad Study Library. I go there the most, and I can research the word and research some of the things. That's why I go. I
Right.
go to YouTube.
Right.
So I think that when someone said, when I think Wallace said, put all the stuff from Imam Muhammad off. No, for what? Leave it out there. I want to be able to get to where it is, wherever it is. All right. So now the bottom line is, what should we be doing as a community? And we got so much that we're not doing.
Right.
that anybody that wants to take credit for doing what we're not doing, they ain't really thought about that correctly. They ain't
Well,
put that logic through. But why should we fight on what we're not doing? We just need to do it.
I mean, appreciate,
Yeah.
respect everything that others are doing,
Yeah.
but and recognize that. And that's one of the efforts that I know the group that I was with yesterday that we offered to promote is that you don't have to talk about the rifts, but just look at their mission and vision statement. If they're attached to that mission and vision and connected in a way that they're doing it, and if there's a uniqueness or if there's a connection organization to organization, and you have a similar mission, then connect on, well, like-mindedness, connect on where you can work together if you can, and if you can't, just agree to disagree and keep working. Just keep working.
And it's all needed. I mean, it's all needed. No matter what anybody's doing, it's needed. So why jump on a little bit somebody else doing to embellish the little bit that you're doing? I mean,
I agree. You shouldn't have time.
well,
Right.
You really
Right,
shouldn't.
because that's what's happening
No,
in Washington, D.C. We're 50 states, and whatever state you're in, even if you're promoted from that angle, that you're doing the work in your state. What's being done in Pennsylvania, Philly primarily, New Jersey. I mean, the Council of Imams there, what they call it, the Council of Imams, but they're collectively collaborating on what they need there in that area to be done, and they're executing it. So, alhamdulillah. But now in California, I heard you call certain states. What were you referring to? Certain cities in California? I don't
well,
know much
there are
about
cities
California.
there are cities that have thriving African American Muslim populations.
Okay.
Oakland with Imam Shuaib,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the Los Angeles scene, they're doing great things. At least it looks like that on the surface with their new buildings and expansion of schools and things of that nature. San Diego, same thing. Um, but when we fail to include them
Mm-hmm.
in national conversations when we're talking about our community. And as I
Right.
was saying, starting like a month ago, I no longer saw the West region even listed on the convener's page, on their webpage, and CWSC, Sister Aisha, who lives in California, she and her
Right.
husband started CWSC.
Right.
And I mean, I'm just saying that,
Now we're on their page, but as far as recognizing I mean, knowing, not just not recognizing, but knowing, having a relationship, right, or building a relationship. Yeah,
well,
it's
we
not.
shouldn't have to build it. It should already be there.
Yeah.
There should be a relationship because it existed before. So if it doesn't exist now, then it's been severed by one of the two parties. Maybe it's just an oversight. Somebody said they were redoing the web page. Mistakes can be made, but we we have a problem with connectivity.
Right. Right.
Purely and simply, we're not connected.
And so that's like Adam said. Um, for those of us who are willing to do what needs to be done, what we're not doing, and just put plugs in our ears,
Yeah,
but be
you can't put plugs in your ears.
what I'm referring
Cannot
to.
allow
I should
you
say
can
the
decide to not
criticisms.
you can decide to not allow petty issues to divert you from what you're doing.
Yeah.
But in a community that needs direction as much as our community needs direction, you can't ignore the pettiness that goes on. You have to be aware
Mm,
of it. Even if it
mm.
doesn't stop you from working, you have to be aware of it.
And, and some of it just doesn't come your way. I mean, you look around and somebody says something and you go, really?
Well, I'm glad it doesn't.
Because I see it, I get it, I see it all the time.
Uh-huh.
It comes through sometimes in an undertone of statements and actions,
Mm-hmm.
actions that are made, but also actions that are not made.
Mm.
I'm sure
When
how
you
crazy it is. We having a
go ahead.
150 call. There's one elderly brother, and that was upset because someone told him, no, he came with financial problems and didn't pay any donations for about 3 months.
Mm.
And someone told them, if you don't pay, you're gonna get kicked off 150.
Oh,
And he was worried.
oh,
So
really?
we no, he thought that came from me. I said, first of all, brother, I don't look at the list and see who didn't pay. I look at to see who did pay. And if you have to take a couple of months off, brother, you got to do what you got to do. I said, brother, do me a favor. That's fake news. Don't
Straight up.
we don't
Mm.
spend a half an hour this call on some fake news.
Mm.
So whoever told you that is a liar at worst,
Mm-hmm.
or passing fake news. And you can tell them I said that's fake news. And that's what happens.
Just like that.
People passing fake news back and forth on everything. And you know it affects us. But somebody got to nip that stuff in the bud. So they can get mad with me or whatever, but quit spreading fake news. And they do it all the time. One sister called me up and said, what am I doing with the money? I said, what money? That 150 money. What you doing? I said, first of all, sister, they don't send me a dime. The money
Wow. But just the idea that somebody would call you
fake
out of the
news,
clear and call you and ask you.
but someone lied to her and spread that he's taking that money. I'm glad I didn't just buy a new car, boy. But that's designed to do that, to stop people. And that's what the shaitan does. He whispers and withdraws.
Right.
Hmm. Even the insinuation, you know, uh, well, I've been privy to it, just the insinuation. And I say to myself, there are two ways to handle it, and maybe you'll have another way. Um, I remember the imam. I think it was the imam. I think he said his dad said, but anyway, if you don't stir it, it won't stink.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's an insinuation. They're trying to get a rise out of you to be on the defense when there's no need to be on the defense. When just let that person continue to express themselves until it either withers away or their hand gets totally shown.
Where I'm the one that nip it in the bud. The man said that was his speech he gave. What was that? When was that? He was saying if you hear a whisper, you got to attack it. The need for leadership was to take early on in this becoming a leader. He did take on the need for leadership.
And even in his 1977, we listened to last night. eh, um, Shoot, I mean, that was for me. It was explosive in the sense of very, very clear. Of like you said, he did register that knocking the false high, the head of falsehood. But he said he would come with they come with something. He come just as hard as they come.
Well, I think that was the name of the tape, Need for Leadership.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. What do you think? You think everybody's tired from the parade?
Well, I don't know. I think Talib is in Clemson, South Carolina,
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
so he's probably just hanging out with family and don't know what. I don't know what Imam Tariq got going on down in Mississippi that he's not with us. Um,
Acknowledging the fathers in the
I'm thinking
house.
Omar. I think. Thank you, Omar. I think Omar. They're probably doing some family-related stuff. I think.
Mhm.
His wife Tawana said that he was out of town on attending some business.
Okay. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, it is Father's Day and all that good stuff. Both of my boys are. Well, one of them's already in LA. The other one is on his way to LA for 2 or 3 days. My youngest son is transferring from University of Maryland to UCLA,
Mm.
so he's there in LA to check everything out, and see if he can line up housing and all that good stuff. My other son already lives in San Diego, so he's just driving up to help him with that situation. But
Mhm.
in our community, I look at it like a kind of a small, consistent stream, very clear water, pure water. But if you put a boulder in that stream at a particular location, you can slow it down and back it up. You can dam it up. And we've already had, and I have no clue how this was allowed to happen. We've already had basically, I almost called it infestation, but it's different than an infestation because, well, it is kind of an infestation of quote unquote immigrant influence sidelining a lot of our communities or people in our communities. We can't afford to do to ourselves with infighting what other people are attempting to do to us with direct attack. We don't have the resources to fight both fights. So
Well,
that's where the need for leadership comes in. We have to have a very clear direction. And yes, I think people are going to have to make some hard decisions on where they stand and the direction that they want to go and sacrifices that they're willing to make. Or you can just be pudding that never sets, be whipped into any shape at any time by anybody. That's not a good thing. To have no real foundation, that's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather, I don't know, I would rather be David at the stream, gathering the exact number of stones that I need. And go forward with that. And build from that.
Mhm.
But you know when you come what the deal is. You got either one of you guys a fan of the John Wick franchise? You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? You got to watch some John Wick. There's great wisdom in John Wick films.
You can see my look up. It was just, yeah.
Yes, there's great wisdom in the John Wick films.
Is that WYCK?
WICK. First
Oh, it
name
is the
John.
Wick, just like okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Great.
Who's that? What's the star name?
Keanu Reeves.
You can't remember.
Yeah, great films. But the main characters in the film all serve what's called the high table. And the high table is leadership. And when you join the high table at whatever level, you accept the rules of the high table. And if you break the rules of the high table, you accept the consequences. Rules and consequences. That's what it's all about there. Our life isn't that simple. Al-Islam is not that simple. But Al-Islam has guidance. It's sure guidance. And I think any organization that operates under the umbrella of Al-Islam should not be afraid of having clear direction, clear guidance, rules, consequences. Obviously mercy, right? I mean that's a part of Al-Islam. Mercy is a part of Al-Islam. But we need the structure, and we need the sure guidance, and we need the declarations of why we are the body that we are, and the leadership that we follow, which is the leadership of Imam W.D. Muhammad. And that we're going to follow his language, his tafsir, however we want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you want to be a part of that and be a member and have a voice, then every bit of the guidance that he laid down and everything that we can extrapolate from that we adhere to it. And if you have different ideas, the earth is vast. There's a place for you somewhere. But it may not be here. And we should not be afraid to say these things. We should not be afraid to put these things on paper. But I think until we do that, I think we're open to attack. And that does not mean that masjids have to come under some other central rules. It just means that those particular communities are going to adhere to those same principles. That if my family moves from Dallas to Charlotte to Oakland to San Diego to Milwaukee or wherever, I know exactly what I'm walking into. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Well, I know that already. If I go and listen observe, I know.
Yes, you do.
I know that that's a 50% community. They follow 50% what the man said, 30%, and I take it accordingly. You understand?
Right,
I take
right.
it. I mean, even in the message I'm at now, they don't do 100%. They be letting other influences come in, and I might speak to it if I see it. Hey, ho 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 ho, what's that about? You know.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's what we got. And the people, if people aren't sincere with that, pretty soon, after about 50 more years of this, you won't even hear much about Imam Muhammad.
That's what we have to guard against.
But because people are worried about how people respond if you mention Imam Muhammad. You ain't got to mention it. I mean, mention Imam Muhammad, you ain't got to qualify. You ain't got to apologize because you mentioned Imam Muhammad.
Who does that? Who apologizes?
Well, I mean, that's their tone. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's their tone.
The entire world honored this man.
No, the entire world didn't honor him.
Well, no, I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. Being
But
invited,
again, a lot
have
of
an
the
audience with
immigrants,
the Pope and stuff like that. Not everybody gets that honor.
I understand that, but a lot of the immigrants and their ilk got a problem with it.
Of course they do, because it takes away from their fake leadership.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but that's what you're dealing with.
Right. And that's what I want to nip in the bud. Yesterday, if it was up to me. Don't have to deal with them. Let them come hat in hand to us.
Well, they will. Trump will
Oh, I
make
know.
sure. Trump will make
I
sure
know.
that.
I understand. But while we're waiting for that to happen, I don't want us to lose focus. And I do believe in, like you're saying, I don't care if it's 80, 20, 70, 30, whatever. If you're not 100% focused, you're losing something. In a world that is highly competitive, in a world that is very complex, where you need to be on your game 100% of the time, or as close to it as is humanly possible, we can't afford 70-30.
Yeah.
There's a place for the 30. I promise you, all over Dallas County, North Texas, they got immigrant masters and everything. Man, there's a place for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need gas money, and I'm really serious about that. I don't want it in and around me. I can seek that out anytime if I want to hear an alternative message, so I understand how blessed I am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to combat in the house.
Right.
But we are. A Nigerian brother said this to me 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "We are the most welcoming people in the world. Us Black people,
Yeah.
people of African descent. We are the most welcoming people in the world. We invite everybody in, sit them down at the table, and put something in front of them. And the next thing you know, they telling us how to run our house."
Yeah.
It just makes me. I want to just get them by the arm and say it was a pleasure having you over. Get home safely.
Mhm. For those who want to come and tell you how to run your house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, and this was sad, and I hate that it actually had to happen because it was kind of embarrassing for these two people. But I had a high school friend of mine and his wife, who is also a high school friend of mine, over to my house for dinner. They're a white couple. I grew up with them. Do you know he sat at my table and tried to be the one to say grace?
They tried without being asked to. Huh?
Without being asked.
Wow.
It was one of the quietest meals I ever had in my life because I shut them right down.
Wow, just the idea. Just the,
But that
as
is,
we would say, the gall.
yeah, but that's the way the Arabs are too. They're coming to your masjid, and before long they'll be telling you what you need to preach.
Yeah.
What your khutbah needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, in a very nice, respectful way, we have to tell them no. In fact, we should have some ready-made khutbahs from the imam that they need to learn.
Mm-hmm. And go into a room to decipher, to have them decipher it.
Well, they need to study it, and they need to go to the immigrant mosque, and they need to get that khutbah that the imam would have them give over there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See how that tastes.
I had a young Yemeni brother. He was in high school, and he wanted to learn accounting. So I let him do an intern in my office, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first day in the office, I sat him down in front of on his computer, and I showed him had him watch 2 or 3 tapes of Imam Muhammad.
Because he had to get to know you, right?
Then I took him to do some Black History stuff.
Oh, okay.
Bina,
That's
so
necessary.
Bina came in and asked him, "How you liking it?" He said, "Yeah, I like it. I don't know if Adam want me to be an accountant or he want me to be an imam." Well, I had to start my indoctrination, boy.
Oh, that is great. I love it.
Amen.
I love that. All right. So this week, I'm going to couple things coming up this week. So tomorrow, Adam, I don't think you've been even a part of this, but Tuesday, Tawana and Omar are having our meeting for IWDM 50th to make some final decisions on 1985 to 1995 of how our presentation that we're going to use that hour and a half in August, what we're going to put together. So they did send out a notice. I don't know who all got the notice. I guess maybe just the people
I got
who had been attending the meetings. But we're doing that on Tuesday evening. On Wednesday, we're having that Mambu and Deloitte presentation. So I'm glad I looked at it again this morning because on the invitation, it says 3 p.m. CET.
Yeah.
Central European time.
What the heck is Central European time?
Central European time. It's just like we have Central US time.
I know, but what time is that?
So 3 p.m. Central European time is 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So I'm glad I looked. So it'll be 8 o'clock for East Coast, 9 o'clock for me in Central Time for that.
Okay.
So I'll try to get that message out to everybody else. I mean, I don't know how many people planning to attend anyway, but I am glad I looked. I would have totally missed it. The wonderful thing is they usually tape it, and there's a replay that you can watch at any time. They're really good about that. And collective conversations. Do we simply want to continue tomorrow night? Do we want to continue the discussion we were having last night, or do we want to have maybe a new video? There's some new good videos out that we could play and review. What do you think?
What do you think? Did you see that video I sent on hair?
Yes, that would be good. There's one out. There's one out about an African brother who is, I think he's both a businessman and a professor, about it's recent, the cost of progress, and he's talking about the African Renaissance of them taking over their own economies. And his whole thing is the cost of progress of what he thinks is going to happen, what they will go through as they develop their own economies, their own currencies, all of these things, what they have to watch out for. I haven't watched the whole thing because I didn't want to spoil it if I watched it with you guys. But what do you think we should do? The one on hair is fine with me.
And because when I watched it, I thought exactly about what that video on Ibrahim Traore said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's do that one. You'll have that one queued up for tomorrow.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, I was on mute, but alhamdulillah, yes, I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, so we'll do that. That's 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow. And next,
gosh,
you busy?
I'm always busy, brother.
That's a good thing.
What date is this? This is the 16th, right?
16th will be tomorrow.
Oh God.
Yeah, today's the 15th.
I'll be here. I'll be on.
Okay.
The second Monday, the first and third Mondays, I had the 150 call, but that's at 8 o'clock. So
okay.
I try to do both of them.
Okay. So on the 23rd, the next Monday, not tomorrow, but the next Monday, I have a guest already scheduled.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, and then I'm trying to think, I think Thursday is a CU Collaborate presentation on credit unions. So anyway, we'll repost all that stuff this week so that people can make their decisions on what to attend, not to attend, and all that good stuff.
I found a number that I used before to reach somebody at the IRS dealing with the nonprofit.
501c3. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to call that number and see if anyone answers.
Okay.
And we can try to see what it is.
Okay.
Because in this environment, I would hate to try to start over and do it again.
Oh no. No, I don't even want to think about that. I mean, no. Everything is going to take too long.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, did you see where
we're in that same situation?
Yeah. Did you see where the person whose name should not be mentioned kicked off 3 of the Democratic governors of NCUA.
Mm.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep, he removed them.
He must have a 22-year-old in mind to pay to put respect.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes. Somebody who failed the county.
Right. Well, I'm trying to figure out how these serious Republican congressmen think that's a good idea.
They don't. They have what is the word? What is the word that they're throwing around these days of what people do? Starts with an A. Acquiesce. They've all acquiesced to basically dictatorship.
You heard about DEI, saying they're not fit, and that's what you do to correct DEI.
With DEI.
Huh?
You correct DEI with DEI.
Yeah. Or you go back to what
Your
you had before.
your version of it.
I remember when I was growing up and got a summer job at a factory, and I ran across an African American guy that was venting because they hired a young Caucasian and wanted him to train the Caucasian so he can be over him.
Yep.
DEI, the original DEI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that has happened. I remember my brother-in-law. He had worked for Muscle White Trucking and Rig Building, and I think he'd been out there for probably some 26, 27 years.
Oh,
And
excuse me. I'm going to have to give greetings and go to another meeting. But
Yes,
all
ma'am.
right,
assalamu
sister.
alaikum. Thank you
Alaikum
all.
salam.
Thank you very much, Sister Ma.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, he'd been there. He'd been there over a quarter of a century,
Yeah.
and a management position came open. And it's okay to whatever publish that you got a management position. People do that all the time, already knowing who they're gonna hire.
Right.
Right? I mean, so he's the obvious choice. I mean, as far as people who knew what to do in the field, how to get it done safely, he was the best person at the company. Period. Even better than the owner's sons at doing the job. So the shop manager, who kind of ran the day-to-day kind of stuff, came and talked to him one day and said brother-in-law's name was Albert. They called him Bit. From when he was a kid, everybody called him a little bit growing up. He was 6'6" when he married my sister. But they called him Bit. And he said, Bit, I'm just going to let you know they're gonna hire somebody from probably from Pool or this other company to take this job. And I know everybody here knows that the job should go to you. Yeah, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's what I hear is going to happen. So we heard about it, or my sister heard about it, obviously that night when he got home, and he decided that he was going to go to work for somebody else. And he put that out that night. Called some friends of his that worked for other companies and, asked about positions. And by 10 o'clock the next morning, it was all over the county. that he was looking to change positions.
Mm-hmm.
By noon, he was a new man.
That's good, man.
But most of us, I mean, it is tough, and I understood this. Probably understood it more when I was younger because the fight was a little fresher. Coming out of Jim Crow and all that stuff, it probably still a little fresher on everybody's mind. I understood that when somebody got a piece of this so-called American dream, that you could kind of halfway take care of your family and responsibilities and have some pleasure out of life, that you didn't want to ever risk rocking that boat. And the guy that you're talking about, that you mentioned, he was probably one of those guys that's kind of in that position, that, when he gave his check to his wife, assuming he was married, that very comfortably they were going to pay their house and car, and take care of the electric bill and this bill and that bill, have a little left over to have a little bit of life, cabinets full of food and stuff like that. And for African American and his family, that was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people suffered those kinds of indignities just to be able to do those things.
Right.
Have that little slice of life with some peace.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that boat is sailed.
Right.
If you're not willing to stand up and fight in these days and times for every inch of ground, these people will walk all over you.
Man. And you have no dignity.
No dignity.
Your normal route on Friday is from the job to the liquor store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From the job to the liquor store.
Yeah. So, I mean, the application of yourself, I mean, that's one of the things I admire about you. And you and I have never met, but I think I could stand on this, that you apply yourself to your profession in such a way that you are a go-to source for even people who wouldn't darken the doorstep at your house.
Man,
They know where to come for answers.
You should see my office, brother.
I believe it. I don't have to see it.
This Caucasian guy came. Someone referred him to me. That's the only reason he came. Came from referred by another Caucasian. So just on that, it was a good referral for him in his mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I can tell the way he left the stuff and try to explain to him. He wasn't really sure. He said maybe my man might have could have been wrong. This is a Negro. So I did the man's work. I put him on. I told him you got to go on extension, man, because I ain't gonna be able to get to you in the next 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So I put him on, put him on extension. So I got him done. I told him you can come and pick it up. How much you owe me? I said your wife had to come and sign the form too. She came, And by the time we left, he gave me a fist bump. He's smiling at me. See you next year.
You ought to come. You ought to come by the club sometime. Have lunch with me. I introduce you to the fellas.
Right. So I get a lot of them, man. I get a lot of them, man. You know, even the rabbi came back this year.
That's good. That's
So
real good.
I'm doing law. So okay, I know what I'm doing. I'll just continue to do it. I don't know how much longer we're doing it, but I'm doing law. But my problem, brother Edward, is getting help.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You know.
Well, according to somebody that I trust, the recent college graduates are having a really hard time finding jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be some people out there with good education who might be looking for something to tide themselves over until they land their dream job or whatever starter job in their, big firm or whatever. You might want to look because I've heard there's some real problems with recent college grads getting any kind of job.
Well, I have one young lady that she just want to intern, but she works at Walmart right now,
Mm-hmm.
and she be working like from 7. No, she gets off at 7 in the morning. Something on. So
Wow.
I'm trying to, So I text her and because she said she's not working weekends. And I said, well, are you celebrating the Father's Day? She said no. So I told her I was going to meet her this afternoon, but I got a text from her and said, hey, she can't do it. She said she'll be free at 8:30 in the morning. I said, well, I ain't gonna be free at 8:30 in the morning. I can't get to office early for nothing, man. If I get to office at 9, I'll be suffering the whole day, and So anyway, but she did come in a few times, and I gave her some money. She said it wasn't necessary. She didn't want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the crew I got now, man, they might come in, they might not come in, and based on what I just need to cover 3 or 4 hours or whatever, right?
Right.
And I ain't paying them 30 or 40,000 a year because I couldn't stand it. So that's my problem.
Yeah, I would just keep putting hook in the water because I think you'll find somebody that probably will fit what you need, and it'll give them just a little bit of the ability to put a few dollars in their pocket and keep their mind sharp.
Mm-hmm. See,
because there's a lot of them that I understand are sitting on their hands right
now. Yeah, that's true. All right, brother. Well, let me get ready to get ready.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed it this morning. Just
Same here. Yes,
the
sir.
three of us. Good conversation, brother.
Yes,
Have
sir.
a wonderful day.
All right, same to you. Thank you, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day.